it's 2 o'clock on Saturday, and we left Ocean Falls this morning at 7, and we're about 10 miles south of Shearwater right now. I think we got a pretty good weather window. They've been tough to come by, but I think we got a pretty good weather window to go south along the outside of Vancouver Island to Victoria. So that's what we're going to try and do. We've never done anything like this before, because it's just the two of us, and it's 3+ days. It's 370 miles. So I personally am pretty apprehensive about the whole thing, but I'm also looking forward to kind of testing ourselves out and seeing what it's all about. Today should be pretty mellow. I think we're going to have winds around 15 knots, get around Cape Scott and even around Brooks Peninsula tomorrow morning, which should be super simple. But tomorrow afternoon into the night, it's supposed to blow much harder, up to, Environment Canada says up to 30 knots. Predict wind says 19 or 20, so I'm fingers crossed for the predict wind, as 30 is a bit much. Even though I know we can handle it and the boat can handle it, I'd rather have something a little less stressful and a little bit more relaxing for our trip. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at now. We're just coming out of the end of Hunter Channel into the mess of rocks and islands that is Queen Sound, and hopefully we'll be able to set the sail there and start our big adventure. Well, it's 9:30 at night, our first night, and we've been motoring all day. The wind just filled in enough to sail. Well, we tried 2 other times and we were good for about 5 miles total those 2 times. This hopefully is going to settle in for a little while, although it doesn't sound too promising at Cape Scott, but that's still 32 miles away, so maybe it'll change by the time we get there. That's what we get for our sunset tonight. It's pretty overcast. I think it's going to be super dark. Well, it's 8:30 on Sunday morning. You probably can't see it that well in the video, but the albatross are out flying. It's a real treat to see them. What else do we have, Lori?
Whales beside us.
And apparently there's 2 whales beside us. We're making really good time. We've done about 145 miles since we left Ocean Falls, and we stopped in Shearwater for a couple hours, so that's averaging over 6 knots over the ground. Well, we've rounded 2 capes, Cape Scott and Brooks Peninsula, and we've got 1 left to go. How you doing?
Okay.
Are you hungry?
Nope.
No. Are you tired?
Yes.
Could you go to sleep right now?
Yes.
You could.
Absolutely.
Oh, I could. Not a chance.
I could.
Yeah, the boat's rolling around too much, and I'm not tired enough.
Oh, I could close my eyes and just accept the boat rolling around.
Yeah, and how was last night for you?
Last night was okay. I saw shooting stars. I saw lots of things in the water that were glowing, but I didn't have as good of wind as you did.
No, I had a pretty remarkable sail last night. And then the wildlife.
Too many close encounters with whales today.
Oh, but the little guy that kept on jumping out of the water, that was pretty cool.
Yes, he was having fun, but I don't like the big ones that were right beside us.
Yeah, no, when they come up beside the boat, that's a bit much. They are supposed to keep 200 meters away. It's like they haven't read the law.
You know, they're not following
They're
the
not
rules at all.
following the rules, not even a little bit.
Otto's being a drunken sailor at the moment.
Well, it's the morning of day 3, and the sun's poking its head up above the fog bank in Barkley Sound. I think that's what we got to look forward to in the next few hours, is motoring in the fog. But there's supposed to be a gale in the central and east end of Juan de Fuca that should blow it out. And running before a gale down Juan de Fuca is not such a tough thing to do. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. It'll be a good end to our trip. Last night was pretty good. The winds died. We started motoring at 4:30. So we sailed for about 32 hours straight. So after a pretty challenging day, which we really pushed our limits yesterday, learned a bunch of new stuff, this is pretty relaxing. So Lori, what'd you learn?
I learned boat still has a light helm even in super heavy conditions with really, really, really big waves.
Boring. Come on. What'd you learn?
I don't like the dog watch. I don't know. What else did I learn? I'm too tired. I learned that I'm tired and that I don't have much of an appetite when I'm short on sleep and conditions are challenging, and
that was a pretty tough 28 hours.
It was.
What about seasickness?
Not too bad. Only at the very, very beginning. I had a tiny bit.
Neither of us took anything, did we?
No.
Yeah, so you're going without any prophylactic of any sort.
Correct.
And you just felt a little seasick at the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then after that it was fine. I just didn't have much of an appetite, but...
It's probably seasicknesses.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel sick.
But you didn't get sick, yeah. Yeah, me neither. And you learn anything else?
I'm sure I learned all sorts of stuff, but when you point the camera at me and ask me what I learned...
You're drawing a blank.
Yeah.
How about sailing in 35? Well, it wasn't really 35. It was kind of like 28 knots, gusting to 35. But it was in the ocean. We've never done that before. What did you think about that?
Well, the seas were pretty impressive. Otto kind of did a good job at times, but he does oversteer. But you can only hand steer that for so long before you're just too tired of it, even though the helm is light. It's just tiring the focus and concentration.
Yeah, there was what, an hour that I had where the seas and everything lined up, and it just was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Other
fun.
than that, we had those cycles come through that would just send the boat
rolling like
around.
crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and everything going crashing and banging, and yeah. Would you do it again?
Well, not tomorrow. But I'm sure eventually for a purpose.
For a purpose.
Yes.
No more experiments.
Only for a purpose.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. No more experiments. Yeah. Mind you, this is a pretty good purpose. We were way up north and now we're way down south, and it's sunny here.
Yes, it's summertime.
Yeah, you look...
I look summery.
You're all summery. Yeah, you're wearing your summer clothes. That's excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Back to the task at hand.
My book.
Your book, yeah. We have 25 miles to go. Looking forward to sleep in my bed and a nice dinner that's not moving. What an awesome way to end our trip down the west coast of Vancouver Island. It's blowing 20 knots in Juan de Fuca. We got 2 reefs in the main, and we got the Genoa pulled out, and the boat's doing about 7.5 knots. and it's sunny and I'm wearing shorts and no shoes. It's awesome. I think that was Lori trying to steer around some kelp there, not Otto getting a little bit crazy. Otto's done a great job steering actually. Not as good as a human being, but not too bad even in the big seas yesterday. This pole setup is just fantastic. There's a topping lift, a fore guy, and an after guy on it, so it can't move. And we can, well, we're broad reaching with that pole to windward right now. Probably about 120 degrees to the wind, and the sail just flies really, really nicely. So you got huge latitude in the sailing angles downwind. Pretty cool. We arrived in Suk at about 7 in the evening after a fantastic sail down Juan de Fuca Strait. We had our hearts set in a small spot a ways into the harbor, but we couldn't get our anchor to set even after trying twice. We ended up out by the spit in a tight spot with good holding. Crazy good way to end our trip down Vancouver Island's west coast. We're broad reaching and about 21 knots of wind. We just went through Race Passage after a pretty windy night in Suk. This wind's built really quick though. When we got up there was only about 8 knots out in Juan de Fuca Strait, and it picked up to 20 in the last hour. The next day was a continuation of the last, with a great sail right into the entrance of Victoria Harbour. We tied up in the early afternoon and spent the rest of the day tiding. Overall, this passage was a fantastic experience. We learnt lots about our boat and ourselves that really helped build our confidence. We think that anybody who wants to do something big in the future should take their boat out into the ocean and give it a go and see what they think.